So GoMetro is a technology business based in South Africa in Cape Town that specializes in using technology to transform transport systems. So we use big data, analytics, all sorts of technologies to improve the way we move through our application of technology into large transport systems. GoMetro identified that there was no electric minibus model in South Africa or the greater African region, yet it is the most popular mode of transport, often called informal transit or paratransit. It moves millions and millions of people, and it provides hundreds of thousands of jobs to drivers, conductors, and an entire industry. And so it's a very difficult to decarbonize sector, if not impossible, without the right and appropriate electric vehicle models. And so we have set out to import and test a range of electric vehicles that will be appropriate for minibus, minivan, paratransit operations, as well as build the first public charging facility specifically designed for minibus taxis in Stellenbosch, South Africa. The minibus is the most important mode of transport in Cape Town. It is the dominant mode, with more than 80% of all public transport in Cape Town being done by the minibus, with only a small minority being carried out by rail and bus. And so the minibus really moves the people. And so it's integral that it is sustainable, succinct, and that it works. And it's under enormous pressure due to the price of diesel, the price of vehicles, lack of access to finance, facilities, and tensions in the industry. And so it's a very, very important sector for us to reinvest in after COVID. The minibus taxi industry consumes 2 billion tons of fuel a year. So that amounts to about 34 million tons of CO2 every year coming out of the tailpipes of minibuses around the country. So we estimate that every operational electric minibus will reduce tailpipe emissions by 13 tons per vehicle per annum. We have to test these figures and really verify them in the field, but it's clear that electrifying the minibus taxi sector will have a huge impact on CO2 reduction in Cape Town, but across the broader South Africa. GoMetro has undertaken quite an extensive analysis of e-mobility in the sub-Saharan African environment. And there are three really important factors that we need to solve for when it comes to creating feasible e-mobility projects. So firstly, we need an adequate vehicle, an appropriate vehicle that is both affordable, robust, has enough range, and is readily available in the market. A very, very challenging reality is the lack of models of EVs in the sector, which is something that we're aiming to focus on to change. Those vehicles need to plug in somewhere. And so there certainly is inadequate infrastructure, whether it's the power grid or just holding facilities for the vehicles to have adequate access to charge. And so it's really important that there's an infrastructure rollout plan that complements the rollout of vehicles so that buyers don't have range anxiety or even just charge anxiety. And then most electric vehicles are very expensive, are much more expensive in terms of sticker price than their diesel equivalents, even if their running costs are lower. And so we are going to need, as an industry and as a country, to develop new financing models that have a pay-as-you-save mindset and that pass on the operational benefits in a total cost of ownership manner upfront, so that the electric vehicles are as affordable, if not more affordable, to be financed by operators and owners. So vehicle infrastructure and financing are the three big hurdles to solve to make this a reality. So e-mobility is the future of the transport industry. We know that fuel prices are only going to rise, battery prices are only going to drop, solar is only going to become more viable. So we really are at a very exciting and interesting intersection where the business case for electric vehicles is becoming more and more viable in more and more settings. And so it's not only our principles won't only work for the minibus taxi sector and public transport, but the approach will work for commercial fleets, container fleets, utility fleets, and private vehicles. And so there's an enormous amount of learnings that can be applied to the electrification of the broader transport sector in South Africa. So GoMetro has always been at the forefront of transport and technology in an African context. We were one of the first companies to map mobility and transport in African cities, bring reform models, and now bring electric mobility to Africa. And so GoMetro would like to, in the next 5 years, be rolling out fully integrated turnkey electromobility solutions in public transport, commercial transport, and really decarbonizing and transforming mobility across Africa.